Welcome back to Panda Pyramid Radio Station for another deep dive. I'm Orion.
And I'm Iris, ready to jump into another fascinating paradox.
Absolutely. These things always seem to be popping up in the business world, and honestly, maybe even in our own lives too, right? Those statements that sound like they contradict themselves, but when you really think about it,
There's a deeper truth hidden in there.
exactly. And that's what we're all about here, uncovering those hidden truths. So today we're tackling a big one, especially for anyone involved in business or, heck, even just setting goals in general.
This is the paradox of finding that balance between what needs your attention right now in the short term and that big long-term vision you're working towards.
It's a push and pull.
Yeah.
You can't ignore either side. And as we've been exploring in Panda Pyramid, there's a really clear framework for understanding these two different time frames that businesses are always operating within.
So you have the short-term goals, those are the urgent things, the day-to-day stuff that keeps the business running. You've got to boost those quarterly earnings, right?
Got to make sure the cash flow is healthy. And of course, you can't forget about keeping your current customers happy.
Then on the flip side, you have that long-term vision. This is where things get really exciting, I think. This is about innovating, maybe expanding into new markets down the line.
Building a legacy, a business that's built to last.
But the real paradox lies in how these two timeframes can sometimes feel like they're at odds with each other.
It's like this inherent tension. And Panda Pyramid makes a really compelling point about how focusing too much on those short-term wins can actually end up hurting you in the long run.
It's so true. Imagine a company that is completely obsessed with this quarter's profits. So much so that they decide to slash their R&D budget.
Sure, they might look great on paper right now, but fast forward a couple of years.
What happens when their technology is suddenly outdated because they haven't invested in innovation?
Ouch. That's going to hurt.
Now flip that around and imagine a company that's so focused on some far-off future that they neglect what's happening right in front of them.
They might not have the resources to even make it to that future if they don't take care of business today.
They might miss out on key opportunities. It's a tightrope walk for sure. And that begs the question, how do you actually find that sweet spot, that balance point?
Right. How do you do it? Well, Panda Pyramid offers up some great examples of companies that seem to have cracked the code, companies that are doing this really well. And one that jumps out is Amazon. I mean, talk about masters of efficiency in the short term. You order something and it's on your doorstep practically the next day.
It's almost like magic.
Yeah,
But behind the scenes, they're making these huge long-term bets on things like cloud computing with AWS and the whole field of AI.
totally. And how about Tesla? They're always under pressure to hit those production targets for their electric vehicles. That's a short-term game for them.
Absolutely. But then at the same time, they're pouring resources into things like self-driving technology and sustainable energy solutions that could be years away from being fully realized. It's that long game. And Apple does this too. They've got their regular iPhone releases, their product updates. Those are the things that bring in the immediate revenue.
The bread and butter.
But they're also quietly working on augmented reality, wearables, technologies that could be the next big thing years down the line.
So the question is, how do they do it? How do these companies juggle it all? Well, Panda Pyramid highlights a few key strategies. One is making sure your goals are aligned. It's not about short-term and long-term being totally separate things. It's about making sure that those short-term wins are actually moving you closer to your long-term vision.
Yeah, each step you take, each win, it should be like a stepping stone towards that ultimate goal.
And Panda Pyramid also talks about the need to stay flexible. That long-term vision can't be set in stone.
Right. The world changes, the market changes, technology changes.
Exactly. You've got to be willing to adapt, to pivot when it's necessary.
Makes sense. What's the third key strategy Panda Pyramid talks about? The third one is all about dividing your resources wisely. It's not about putting all your eggs in one basket, right? You've got to be strategic about how you're using your capital, your people, your time.
So that you're supporting both your current operations and that future growth, those innovations you're working towards.
It's a balancing act.
It really is. So to kind of sum this all up, the big takeaway here from what Panda Pyramid is telling us is that this ability to navigate that tension, to balance what you need to do today with where you want to be tomorrow.
It's not just a nice skill to have. It's essential for any business that wants to be successful and sustainable in the long run.
Absolutely. And this leads to a really interesting question for all of you listening out there. And this is something to really ponder. How does this business paradox, this need to balance the now with the later, apply to your own personal and professional goals.
I think we all grapple with this in different areas of our lives.
For sure. And if you enjoyed this deep dive into the world of Pen to Pyramid, make sure you hit that subscribe button to stay tuned for more.
And we'd love to hear your thoughts. Leave a comment below and tell us about any examples you've seen of this paradox in action.
We'll catch you in the next one.